Hey there, thank you for joining me. My name's Mark, and if you see me for the first time, I go by the pen name Mark Allard Will, both for writing for comics and for covering virtual cycling, both in terms of commentary on race events on various virtual cycling platforms, as well as reviewing virtual cycling platforms, the latter of which we are covering today. And why have I decided to return to my reviews of virtual cycling platforms? Well, it is because I discovered two virtual cycling platforms that I've been unaware of despite them existing for quite a while. I'm going to reveal what the one is we're covering today, and that is OneLap. I won't reveal the second one. If you wish to see that, you're going to have to stick around, and that's my way of luring you into hitting that subscribe button and finding out what that video is in due course. So, what is OneLap? It is a virtual cycling platform, and I'll cover what that means in a second, and it appears to be produced by a company by the same name, OneLap, out of Japan. Now I say appears to be because there's nothing concrete on their website or social media, but a lot of posts on their Facebook page would allude to the fact that they are based out of Japan, so someone in the comments can either correct me on where they're based out of or affirm the fact that they are actually out of Japan. And what does virtual cycling platform mean in this sense? Well, it's not a video playback virtual cycling platform, or cycling platform I should say. And what I mean by that is a video playback platform would be something like what used to be called Sufferfest, what is now Wahoo System, and that would also include other platforms such as Kino Maps. So, a virtual cycling platform in difference to that is actually one that is almost graphical video game based, such as Zwift, IndyVelo, Wahoo RGT, RIP, and other platforms too. So I've covered IndyVelo and other platforms here, and you can take a look at my prior videos to really get a taste of what virtual cycling is in the indoor training space. OneLap really attests to be a platform that is aimed at the individual cyclist who wishes to train indoors. Now there is a social and event function which appears to be pretty good, that I haven't really dipped my toe into, but realistically, if you like me are a solo cyclist, you can really jump into this for both training by free riding, and we'll cover what that is as we go deeper into the video, but also with structured workouts too. Graphically it's a very good platform, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. And the sign up and setup process is nice and smooth. I'll cover how that works as well. So without any further ado, why don't we jump in and take a look at that first look user experience of OneLap. Alright, so let's take a look at OneLap. So to begin with, we land here on our landing page with this fantastic animation that showcases the in-game graphics quite splendidly, and it's quite simple to sign up and log in, so I won't cover much of that. You won't have any issue at all. And once we do log in, we are met by this very simple to navigate menu screen, which I can only really applaud. So we have the event window, we have quick play, career and options. We'll cover some of those in a little bit, but for now, just to get the hands-on first like user experience, we're going to go to quick play. And when we do, we are met by two options which we'll take a further look at. They are in essence workouts and free ride. Free ride is to ride in the world at your own leisure, as it suggests, either pushing hard or taking it easy in the various maps in the virtual world. And workouts, of course, is going to be your structured workouts to look at improving in certain areas that you as a rider wish to improve in. For today, however, I'm going to take a look at one of the longest routes in one ride, and that is going to be Central Loop, the 24.9 kilometer route. Just again so we can get a look at that hands-on user experience. as we load into the game here, we're going to first give a review of data. Data is really important to most roadies and most cyclists who are looking to train as a sport. So let's take a look at all the data. We'll break down what we see first and then give a review of it. So we start at the top left of our in-game window here, and we can see that grayed out background soap bar window that has the elapsed time at the very top. Just below that we have that square window that shows the aerial view top down radar screen of the map, in which we can see the golden arrowhead that is circled with a white banded circle. That is me in relation to the map. And following that we can see two golden dots. Those are other riders in game, which for this experience are actually bots. Just beneath that we can see that solid gold wavering bar. That is actually our elevation profile. Then going directly beneath that we can see the cumulative climbing in meters. To the right of that we can see a circular dial that shows the current elevation gain as a gradient percentile. Then last but not least, for this soap bar window we can see the distance of the map. So we can see in the lime green there the distance travelled. In the grey we can see cumulative distance remaining. Beneath that we have the same as a progress bar, so lime green being distance travelled, and then the rest is of course what remains. Now we'll go to the bottom centre of the screen. We can see kilometres per hour on the far left of all the numbers at the bottom there. Next to that, if we continue right, we can see the current power as wattage that I'm currently putting out through the Smart Trainer, and for full disclosure I'm using a Tacx Flux 2 Smart Trainer. Next to that, the small number, we can see percentile of FTP or functional threshold power. That number is incorrect, and that is in all fairness to the game because I have not done a slope test or a ramp test in game to figure out, or to allow the game to figure out what my FTP actually is. So that is why that is inaccurate. It has nothing to do with the game. If you do your ramp test, one would assume that that would be incredibly accurate. And then if we continue right from there, we have my heart rate as BPM. Then again, the small number next to it is the percentile out of 100%, in other words maximal heart rate. And that actually appears to be fairly accurate considering I've done nothing to give it my data, and that is of course basing it upon my age, and that will be why it's fairly accurate. Upon sign up you are asked for your age as birth date, and again sign up is very easy, and that's why I'm not showing you the sign up process. I already did that ahead of today's review, so you won't have any issue with sign up, and that's why I felt it unnecessary to show you that. But my maximal heart rate is 185 BPM, so it's saying around about 77-78% for that 140 to 150 range. Seems pretty accurate. Then last but not least for these numbers, next to that, continuing right again, we can see cadence as RPM. So again, that's taken my cadence from my Smart Trainer, again a Tacx Flux 2 Smart Trainer. Top right of our window we can see the nearby rider list, which did confuse me somewhat. So one criticism I would give is in brackets there you can see 1, which led me to believe for a short while that I was actually riding in game with another real world human, if you will, another human, another real world rider, when actually I wasn't. That 1 in bracket is actually me. Then last but not least for data, at the very bottom of the screen you can see that bar that again is wavering in shape, that is color coded. That is on the traffic light system, and that is an exertion profile or maybe a stress point profile, and that is working again on that traffic light system, going from blue and green through to red, blue and green being the lesser exertion, amber being your mid-tier, and then red going through to full exertion, in other words when you're hitting your maximal. So let's give a review of that. How do I feel about this? Well, let's look at it. All the numbers are nice and big, clear to read, and a nice font that is very legible. The color coding is quite nice when we see the color coding on the watts or the power output, and that changes based on your FTP. So again, that's a little bit inaccurate for me, but that is my own doing, as I covered before. The climb profile again is nice and easy to read. The cumulative climbing distance gained, the current percentile of gradient, all very easy to read. The color coding on the distance covered, and the cumulative distance remaining is all very easy to read. The map, top-down, aerial view, radar screen, whatever you want to call that, is again very easy to read. The elapsed time, very easy to read. The stress point gradient that we see on the bottom of the screen, very easy to read in real time, very easy to follow along with. All of these numbers are very easy, and it's boiled down to only what we need. And I love it. I think that's fantastic. That's a great way to cover data. Data is very important to cyclists who take this seriously for training as a sport, and I think that OneLap have done a bang up job here. So how did it feel in game to be riding here? Well, it actually felt fantastic. It felt very real to the real world. There felt like there was a continuity to that stress, and that chain tension felt through the crank arms. So in summary, if you're not familiar with virtual cycling platforms, well, the way that it works with a smart trainer connected is that the game, in this case OneLap, is communicating via either Bluetooth or ANT+, whichever connection you've chosen, to your smart trainer to feed in data based on the current elevation gain or elevation descent, and sometimes based on terrain as well, difference in terrain based on either smooth road or rough terrain. And there was, like I say, a continuity to that. It felt very real to the outside world and very fluid. And the elevation profile, let's talk about that for a second. The way that that felt, it felt really good compared to Zwift. In Zwift, what I often feel is that there is lag with elevation gain. It takes 1 to 2 seconds, which is quite a long time, for the elevation gain that you've entered to really connect with the chain tension that's being fed through the magnetic flywheel, the magnetic resistance wheel in the smart trainer. And that can be off-putting, that can really throw you off your effort and exertion. And I didn't feel that in OneLap. It felt very instantaneous with elevation gain, and that was a big kudos for me to give to OneLap. I really feel that they've really tapped into how it feels in the outside world to be riding, to be putting effort through your chain and through whatever gear selection you're in. So yeah, very much based on gear selection, very much based on how hard you're trying to ride, very much based on terrain and on elevation, and very fluid with that, so it felt absolutely fantastic in game. So let's take a quick review of the graphics as well. As we can see there, that flock of birds flying by, I think the animation of that is perfect. That sporadic spacing that you'd see on a flock of birds that's just jettisoned from the ground straight up into the air, as we've all seen in the real world. There's that sporadic nature to it, and it just looks really great, and you can see it again in the distance there. But the thing that really struck me as being fantastic in the graphics is just how realistic and how beautiful the rendering is on the clouds. That's the best cloud rendering I've seen in any of the virtual cycling platforms I've tried, and the ones I've reviewed here on the channel. The foliage and surrounding background looks great as well. But the one thing that really struck me as being fantastic is this shadow play coming off of the avatar. So my background is in film and TV production, and what really struck me as being really fantastic is how the shadow plays with what is known as light theatre. So light theatre is how you stage the light based on either production lights in the video world or in video games, the sun. So you'll see as we go around these corners that the shadow that's cast off the avatar changes with the direction, and that's changing in relation to the sun being still, because very little time is moving in the moment. So that seems to be quite realistic, quite a smooth rendered shadow as well. And honestly, really fantastic graphics. They've really worked on this and it looks fantastic. So the data is great. The feeling of riding through a smart trainer is really great, and I should mention that I was using Ant Plus, so I don't really know how that works with Bluetooth, if it's as good, but certainly with Ant Plus it was fantastic. So overall, I've really enjoyed this. So that's my overall first look, hands-on user experience review of OneLap. I really enjoyed it. Some notes that I would give is that the user base at the moment is not huge, and I'm not sure of how the subscription model works, if it is existent at all. I have seen conflicting reports online that there was at one point a subscription model, as I've seen it described as a budget alternative to Zwift, and for me, I've not come across that. When I signed up, it was free to sign up, and it is a free membership or subscription. So maybe they've made it free to begin to grow that user base, and certainly when I was riding in game, as you could see there were no other real humans, real world users in game with me. I was riding at 9 AM Central Standard Time, or Saskatchewan time, as I'm in Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, where we do not observe daylight savings time, and it seems that most of the user base is likely in East Asia. That being said, another note that I would give is that I was confused by the event menu, and I didn't choose or opt to join an event because I was just confused by it. It appears that the time zone is in Universal Time Code, or UTC. At least I think so, but I was very confused by it because the times didn't seem to be in relation to me in my time zone in CST. Other than that, as the minor criticism I have, I found it to be a fantastic platform that certainly I would say is geared towards solo riders who wish to use some of the social functions of the game, which I can look at in a later review if you wish for me to go deeper into OneLap. I would say that it's really good for people that want to train either through free riding or structured workouts. Again, I can look more at structured workouts if that's something you wish for me to do. And if you wish for me to go deeper into OneLap, just leave a comment in the comment box below and I can take a look at doing so. But anyway, that's been me taking a look at OneLap. My name's been Mark, you've been a wonderful audience, and I'll see you next time when I take on another virtual cycling platform. Thank you.